What's going on there, YouTube? Thanks for coming back to my channel, and it is another wonderful day. We're gonna go check out some more of the differences between the United States and New Zealand. Mr. Alexander has another video. Last time I reacted to his video, he said he had another one, so we're gonna check it out. So, that's our plan today. If you like all the stuff that I'm doing, like, subscribe, do all that stuff, comment, tell me to check out some other stuff. But yeah, let's just get into it.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Alexander Ayling, and in today's video, I'm going to be sitting down with you and comparing the biggest differences between the United States of America and New Zealand. Now, I'm a dual citizen of both countries. I'm currently living in New Zealand. I've lived most of my life in the United States, and these are going to be some of the biggest differences between the two countries.
It's like a music video.
Also want to say a huge thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Let's check out Mr. New Zealand.
Also, just a reminder, make sure you stick around until the end because I'm going to be starting this video off with bigger general differences, and then I'm going to be bringing it towards the more specific niche differences. So stay tuned. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. So check it out. In January of 2021, I moved with my wife here to New Zealand. We brought our dog. It's been an incredible move. It's been a crazy one. And along the way, we've noticed a lot of differences between these two countries. But before we get into these differences that I've noticed, I think it's really important to share some general information. First off, the United States of America is much, much bigger than New Zealand. The United States currently has a population of around 333 million people, while New Zealand has just 5 million people. So while there are a lot of cultural differences that I've observed, many of the differences really boil down to those two factors: size of geography and size of population. New Zealand is around the size of the state of Oregon, which is about 2.5% of the whole landmass of the United States of America. So New Zealand is about 2.5% the size of the United States of America. That being said, New Zealand is an incredibly diverse country. It's made up of two main islands, the North and the South Island, with Stewart Island down way south and a couple of other outlying islands that make up New Zealand's territorial boundaries. While this video is about the differences between the countries, it's also worth mentioning some of the similarities. Both countries were founded by the British back in the day as colonies of the British Empire. Both countries speak English as the main language, although there are differences in accents as well as word choices, and we'll get into some of those later. So while I could make an entire video about the similarities between the two countries, this video is about the differences. So let's get started. Number one, New Zealand and the United States of America are on opposite sides of the Pacific Ocean in different hemispheres. The United States of America is located in the northern hemisphere, while New Zealand is located in the southern hemisphere. New Zealand straddles the 38th parallel of latitude and generally has a nice climate. The North Island, on average, has a somewhat drier, sunnier climate, while the South Island has a somewhat cooler, wetter climate. California, which straddles the 38th parallel of latitude in the northern hemisphere, it's the opposite. Southern California has the drier, warmer climate, while Northern California has the wetter.
That's a really cool little walkway thing. Also, I'm from Southern California, so initially, I don't live there right now, but it's where I was born and raised, so that's what I'm used to.
Cooler climate. Because the two countries are located in different hemispheres, they have different seasons at different times of year. For example, in Christmas in New Zealand, it's the middle of summer. They don't have snow on the ground and a white Christmas.
Oh,
instead,
is weird. I forgot about that. I kind of knew that, but I kind of forget about it. Like, Santa should not be in the sand, man. Like, can reindeers even be in the sand? Like, in the summer? Can they survive in summer? What else? Snowmen's? What about snowmen's? There's no snowman. I mean, that's kind of a Christmassy thing, right? And there's no, I mean, you got a Sandman? Do you guys make Sandmans? What's happening?
They celebrate Christmas on the beach. And right now, it's the...
I don't think I've ever seen a Santa walking around, like, in America with sunglasses. I don't think that's a thing.
Middle of August, but yesterday it snowed,
really
so we're in the heart of winter.
Because right now it's it's June, so it's pretty hot out here. It's actually a pretty nice day, but I don't even know what the temperature is. I wonder if I could tell on my watch, but I have it. I don't actually know how to use this thing. But anyway, yeah, actually it says it's 71 degrees, whatever that is in Celsius for you guys. But yeah, 71 degrees, so give or take.
Helicopters. They still fly on both sides of the hemisphere. Number 2, New Zealand is simultaneously in the future and in the past. Let me explain. New Zealand's time zone straddles
Future in the past.
the international date line.
Matrix.
So if you're living in New Zealand, you're technically living in the future. In fact, it's one of the first places for the sunrise each new day anywhere in the world. So if you're living in New Zealand, you're technically living in the future compared to the United States. New Zealand is almost a day ahead of the United States, but it works out like it's almost a couple of hours behind. So while we're technically living in the future down here, depending on where you live, it might feel like you're living in the past. Many of New Zealand's small rural towns do kind of feel like time traveling 20, 30, 40 years into the past. The next major difference is a big one. Here in New Zealand, people don't order online and ship things to their house as often as they do in the United States. Living in Los Angeles, especially during the pandemic, it became totally normalized to just shop everything you need online, and for many cases, those products would arrive on the same day, but they would be boxed up in cardboard with plastic, and it just created a lot of waste. Sure, you can order online and you can get things shipped to your house. It's probably not going to be on the same day, especially if you're not living in the major cities like Auckland, Wellington, or Christchurch, but you can do that. But people just don't do it as often. And
That's very interesting. You know, I would actually think it's the opposite, and people would need more things shipped to them because they're so remote. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe they just have enough. They're sustainable there. But here, Amazon, it's next day, man. I mean, sometimes it's that day, but it's the next day all the time. Like, it's pretty rare, actually, if you have like Amazon Prime, to not get something the next day, in my opinion. Like, it depends what it is, right? But that's kind of crazy. And also, like, you know, I did say I was going to give away you know, 2 Amazon gift cards if I get 1,000 subscribers. So if somebody from New Zealand wins and they it doesn't have much value to them, let me know. We could try to work something out. We can do something else. But yeah, that's interesting. I wouldn't have expected that.
obviously, if you're living in a city, a lot of these services are available, but for most of the country living rurally, it's not as common. And to be honest, I kind of enjoy the fact that it's not like that here. I think that the culture of convenience in the United States has gotten completely out of hand. We just expect things to arrive at your front door, and you don't even have to change out of your pajamas if you don't want to. Now, while that's great from time to time, it becoming normalized and the new normal does not really help with the problem of waste creation, trash, etc. One of the main differences that I've noticed living here is that my household creates much less trash. Which brings me to my next point. New Zealand is cleaner than the United States.
That is not surprising. I mean, America is a dump sometimes. Some places, oh my gosh, like, I mean, in some places in California, like, they're kind of more poverty places and not the nicest areas. There's litter everywhere, man. Everywhere. And I can tell you that people do not care about saving the environment. Some people do. Okay, I'm not gonna say everybody doesn't, but most people do not care about saving the environment. The whole waste from Amazon, not a concern for Americans at all. Sorry. But you know, that's probably a reason. And that's great that that New Zealand is like this, because it probably does help a lot.
States. And I think that can be boiled down to a couple of different reasons. First and foremost, like we said, New Zealand is 2.5% the size of the United States. So there are much less people here creating much less trash.
That's true.
But I also think that there is a culturally ingrained sense of duty and obligation to clean up after yourself. Okay. There are little signs across the country that say like, be a tidy Kiwi. And that means clean up after yourself.
Well, that's not fair. You can get like 4 pieces of trash with just his nose.
Don't litter. I think that litter bugs here are really looked down upon, and there's a lot of social pressure to not litter and to clean up after yourself. But also, I think it goes further than that. As a family of 2 with a dog, in the United States, when everything was just arriving via, ordering online, shipped to your house, big box, full of plastic, full of styrofoam, so much more waste was created living like that. But living here, we create literally 2 small trash bags full of trash, which go into a larger bag, which you have to pay. It costs about $5 for a roll of like 10 bags. And those are the only bags that the trash collector will accept. So there's a kind of pay to play.
That trash vehicle is. Our trash vehicles are huge, man.
A element to it, which encourages you to create less waste. And the recycling bin here is so small. It's smaller than a cooler, and it's more than enough space for a week's worth of recycling.
There's no way. I have two trash bins. They're like, I don't know. I mean, they look like they're bigger than New Zealand. I think there was a little like snippet of it at some point here, but I don't know where it is. But we have 2 big size bins. They're way bigger than coolers. They're like yay high, right? Whatever. And then we have a recycle one, and we almost need to buy a second recycle one for a week. Like that's how much recycling we do. Like it's just out of control. Like we never have enough, so it's crazy.
Which leads me to my next point. New Zealand is conservation minded. New Zealand is an island chain that exists in the South Pacific Ocean, and it's the remainder of an ancient continent called Zealandia, most of which is now underwater. And that's because the type of flora and fauna that existed in Zealandia was very unique. And New Zealand has an extremely unique ecosystem with animal species and plant species that don't exist anywhere else on Earth. That's because New Zealand was geographically isolated for millions of years. One of the biggest differences between the United States and New Zealand is that here in New Zealand, there are almost no indigenous mammal species, which allowed for...
There is nothing you guys are missing there. Listen, you guys don't have bears, coyotes, wolves. Awesome. I mean, why would you even want them? I mean, they may be great to look at one time in your life, but honestly, if you see it in person, you don't want to. Like, there's nothing great that's an outcome there. Someone dies, or you're lucky to get away.
For New Zealand to develop a huge array of very unique bird species that just don't exist anywhere else. Like the national bird, the kiwi. Many of these birds evolved to be flightless because they didn't have the need to...
Kiwi's a bird. I see. I thought it was the fruit. I thought it was the fruit that you guys did that.
Fly away from
no idea it was a bird.
Land-based predators. But with the first humans arriving, there came pests like rats, stoats, and possums. Not the crazy-looking possums from the United States, but these cute, furry-looking possums from Australia, which are actually wreaking havoc on the native bird species. So because many of these flightless birds are now threatened with extinction due to the importation of these predatory mammals, the whole country is quite conservation-minded, and they're taking huge efforts to eliminate predators and reintroduce these flightless birds to try to revitalize and regrow these populations of unique bird species. And while many people in America share this sentiment of wanting to conserve and protect our national parks and national forests, as well as endangered species, I think that here in New Zealand, it's just much more mainstream and accepted. Whereas sometimes in the United States, that sentiment has become controversial, unfortunately. I've recently begun to redesign my website, and I've been blown away by how intuitive and simple it is to use Squarespace's.
Yeah, go check out Squarespace, but I'm skipping this ad. Also, there's a lot of hunters. Like, people love hunting in America. Like, I'm not a hunter. I don't really like doing that. I don't like killing things, to be fair. Yeah, I mean, I don't really care for it, to be honest. A lot of people do.
www.squarespace.com.
Not me, man. But I can see why there's a lot of people that are, yeah, I can see why we have a lot of endangered species. You know?
Go get it. Now, moving on to some of the more interesting situations that we've encountered with differences. Restaurant culture. It's totally different. First off, it's not customary to tip your waiter in New Zealand, whereas in the United States, waiters and waitresses work for tips. And I think that kind of encourages them to be more proactive, but it also encourages restaurateurs to kind of rush you through a meal to get you out, to get another person in so that they can feed another person.
Burn, baby. Yeah, I was a server for a while, and you know, just to say something, I'm not sure if a lot of people do know this, but I think a lot of people come to America and think that they have to tip like crazy. Like, you're only like tipping like when you're at a restaurant, like, and you know, there's some, like, they'll try to get you to tip. Like, if you go to Starbucks, there's gonna be a tip jar, but you don't have to tip Starbucks. Like, you really don't. I think you have to quote unquote tip like haircutters, restaurant people, like, you know, stuff like that. And you know, you do make quite a bit. Like, you know, I was making it depends, like the minimum wage, like usually you make minimum wage if you're a server, and then like plus tips depending on the state you live. But I mean, like, you can make like $100 to $300 a night in tips easily, depending on where you work, how nice it is of a restaurant, etc. But yeah, tips are good. Tips are really nice out here in America. So
maybe get another tip.
But you, regardless, just if you're at a restaurant, tip like 15%, whatever. Like, you know, if you're struggling knowing how much to tip, just tip 15 to 25%. You know, really, that's fine. You know, I think 25 is kind of on a higher end, but yeah, 15 to 20% easy.
But I'll share with you a funny story that happened when my wife and I first moved here and met up with my cousin and her husband who lived in Auckland. We took them out for dinner. I wanted to make sure that there was no awkward moment at the end of the meal where waiter or waitress came and hit us with the bill, and then people were looking at each other like, who's gonna pay? I just wanted to handle the bill and make sure that I was the person paying for it. So when we arrived and the waiter and waitress seated us, I explained that we were here, we had a reservation. She sat us down, and I told her, hey, before we get started, can you just take my credit card and hold on to this so when it comes time to pay for the meal, I can pay, and you know, my cousin and her husband can be our guests. She was dumbfounded. She looked at me so confused. So confused. There was this look just like, I don't think she had ever encountered that situation ever before. And she actually had to go over to her manager and speak with her manager, who then came over and told me that they were actually not able to take my credit card before it was time to pay. So I was really confused. This was like a nice, popular restaurant in Auckland, and I don't know if that's the case in every other place, but it really kind of set a new understanding about restaurant culture here in New Zealand for me. I did end up covering the bill, but I had to get up and pretend I was going to the bathroom right as we finished, and then walk over to the checkout and pay for the bill there. And that's another difference between restaurants in the US and in New Zealand. Here in New Zealand, you don't have to do the whole awkward getting the attention of the waiter or waitress, like, you can get up from the table, walk over to essentially where the hostess is, and just pay for your bill on the computer right there, and then it's time for you to say goodbye. Next up, a major difference, driving. Here in New Zealand, we drive on the left.
I don't like that, guys. I don't know. I mean, like, maybe it's just American person inside of me, but like, dude, it's like, I feel like if I went anywhere else, I would mess it up. I'd be just like intuitively like driving on the right side of the road, and then I would get in a car crash or get a ticket, and everybody would be mad. It would be terrible.
Left-hand side of the road, and the driver's seat is on the right-hand side of the car, which is the opposite of in the United States. In the USA, you drive on the right-hand side of the road, and the driver's seat is on the left-hand side of the car. And when you signal with your turn signal, those are switched too. So when you first come here and you're driving on the left-hand side of the road, chances are you're gonna hit your windshield wipers instead of the turn signal. So it's worth trying to figure that out. Another thing that's super popular here on the roads, but not as prevalent in the United States, are roundabouts. I mean, they do have stoplights here, especially in the cities, but once you get out of the cities, the whole country is pretty much a series of roundabouts. And I think that American drivers can kind of get a little bit like scared of roundabouts for some reason. It's pretty straightforward, you know? You just make sure that nobody's coming into it. And if they are, you slow down and you let them.
Yeah, it's really not hard. When I lived in California, we had tons of roundabouts everywhere, and I love roundabouts. I actually think they're really nice, but where I live now, there's not like any roundabouts, and people get freaked out by them when they do see them. There's like one or two in my city, and like people literally freak out when they see a roundabout. They don't know what to do. But luckily, from where I was from in California, they're everywhere.
Them go, and then it's your turn. It's kind of nice too if you accidentally make the wrong turn on the roundabout. You just keep driving around. You can just keep going around.
I love them.
In circles and circles. Oh yeah, and 8-lane freeways like in the United States, they don't really exist in most of New Zealand. I mean, obviously in Auckland, where 1/4 of the entire country's population lives, they have bigger freeways there, and there's still traffic there. The main highway in the country, State Highway 1, is for the most part a winding 1-lane road. So Google Maps might tell you it's going to take you 2.5 hours to get somewhere. It usually takes a little bit longer because the roads are quite windy. And there are actually quite a lot of crashes, especially on weekends. People drive crazy because there are, you know, less police. There are less people on the roads, so sometimes people tend to speed. Okay, friends, last major difference. To call the police in the United States, you dial 911. Yep. To call the police in New Zealand, you dial 111. But you can also dial 911 and it'll forward you to 111. Okay, friends, well, that's it for this episode of cultural differences between the United States and New Zealand. I think it would be fun to keep these videos coming as I notice more differences between the two countries. So think of this as...
That was cool. That was awesome. I like learning all that stuff. I think it's super interesting. So yeah, that's what it is. So yeah, if you guys think that there's some other video I gotta check out, please leave it in the comments. I love checking some new stuff out. So yeah, do that and like and subscribe. That'd be cool. Until next time.